Alright guys, welcome back to a Sunday night Ion market. This is going to be pretty straightforward tonight. We're just going to take a look at some stuff going on around the current market. We did a special sort of video game promo look the other day, which people seem to like, and we may do another sort of special market type of thing in the future. But I kind of just wanted to get through some of the normal stuff and talk about some of the changes we've seen over the weekend. So we're going to jump right in today. Starting off with Ancient Guardians, only a few things to note, and they're all pretty much in the Sulfa Cord category. I've seen Fancias up quite a bit, about $14 cheapest for this. Again, this was a very low entry-level price when the set first came out. It was like $5 to $6, and it's been going up significantly since then. Obviously, it seems stuff in Ancient Guardians in general is fluctuating quite a bit, so I don't know where it'll land, but this is a pretty good card, and it's, I believe, currently their best normal summon or, individual play starter. So it's definitely one that you'll want to have 3 of. I'm not sure how this deck's actually going to look. They are waiting on additional support as well, but it definitely seems like a fan favorite. So if you got these when they were 5 or 6, you're probably sitting pretty right now. If not, I would say maybe wait a little, because I do think there's a very good chance they fall back out, but there's also a good chance that at least one of them stays high up. So you have to, weigh the risk versus reward on that. Speaking of that, Dual Sulfa Cord Coolio was the highest one when the set first came out. Now it's, I don't know, right around $13. It's pretty solid. It's one that people kind of chase after in multiples. It's effect negation, so it's not bad. Again, I'm not an expert on this deck, so I can't speak too much about, the meta implication or if there is going to be any meta implication, but just watching trends, this seems to be sticking right around that between 10 and 14, I guess. Really, if you want to call it an average, like $12. If you're going to grab them, grab them. One of these does have potential at some point to go up. I just don't know which one. So, I would say the cheaper you can get a play set of each, the better off you're going to be if you ever have any interest in playing it. But right now they're, relatively low. And then Butia is $5. This is one that I don't think it's fantastic, but it's, definitely a neat card to keep an eye on, simply because all the other ultras for this archetype have gone up so far, and this one is pretty cheap. So at $4, I don't think it goes much lower than that, considering how tough it is to actually pull ultras out of Ancient Guardians with the ratios. But I don't know how many they play, so maybe look into that a little bit in terms of the actual competitive nature of it, and see if it makes sense to grab a couple of these while they're low. Jumping over to a card I just wanted to point out, I've been playing around with Laval quite a bit. I'm working on a deck profile, and that's going to be the next one that we have on the channel. One of the cards I found to be surprisingly effective in there is this Trishula Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier. The deck as a whole was very lackluster. I think if you look at the actual sales rates for the Ice Barrier Freezing Chains, you will see that there are a lot of relatively low quantity listings. Sometimes when new structures comes out and they're ripped open, you see a lot of them available. These are a bit lower, which leads me to believe that the Ice Barrier deck just didn't have the same level of demand. And I mean, that's not leading to believe, that's pretty much fact. But Trishula is an insanely good level 11 synchro, one of the few generic level 11 synchros that we have, and I would definitely recommend just having a copy of this card, because there will be scenarios in which you'll want to play it. Non-targeting, banishing, removal, plus its replacement effect if it is destroyed by an opponent's card. You bring out a Trish, you negate opponent's effects. It's just a really, really powerful card overall, and it's super cheap. And considering that I don't see any reason this deck's going to get a rewave, because it's not even selling for its initial wave, this is just one to look at and maybe grab at that cheap of a price. Another one I want to talk about super cheap, War Rock Mountain. I don't know how many more times I can put this one out there. $3 this card is right now. War Rocks as an archetype are pretty rough. They are not very good at all, but we should be getting leaks any day now for Lightning Overdrive for TCG exclusives, probably within the next week or two. I do think there's a very good chance that the deck is still going to suck after the leaks are announced, but we do know we're getting War Rock support, and that alone may be enough to spike this card in the short term. I personally picked up a playset just in case, with the intent of either holding on to it if the deck is good, or trying to move it quickly and make some sales if it is not. But at that entry-level price of $2.99, and this is a moderately played, so realistically, if you look at the near mint, $2.99 is also there, although it is a low-rating seller. About $3. At that entry-level price of $3, this card feels to me like it's worth the risk just in case, because if the War Rock support is good and suddenly does change the deck, then we could be having a real conversation about this card's price, and we know it's not going to be in the Mega Tins. So, just wanted to put that one out there. It's still super cheap. And another one I like from Blazing Vortex, Greater Polymerization just feels like a card that's going to have some long-term value and use. I don't know exactly in what at the moment, but considering its unique elements, the fact that it protects from card effects, it's searchable, there's different ways to use it. It just, on paper, is the only card that I can think of that specifically requires 3 or more, but it does use hand or field, it is searchable, and it does give that card effect protection, so I could see this at some point in the future being a solid card. Like Ultra Polymerization and some of the other ones, it's relatively cheap and again safe from reprint for a while, barring some kind of shock, obviously. So just another one to keep an eye on. Plenty of quantities. It's not a buyout card or anything like that, but I do think it's a card just to have at least a couple copies of in case you decide you want to play it. Bingo Machine Go, moving over to Legendary Duelist Season 2, is up a bit. It's about $13 and rising. There is a Korean parallel rare here for $5, but that doesn't really count towards the overall price. 13, pretty quickly hitting up to 14. This is a really, really good card. I think it looks beautiful in secret. The other variant of it is still pretty pricey as well, at around 15, but the gap between the two is closing, so that's something to note. Dwindling in quantities, it's a Blue Eyes card. There's going to be more Blue Eyes support coming out, and this just has nostalgia going for it. The trends do show it going up. It was around 8 to 9 for a while, and now has pretty much cemented itself at least around 12, 13, so if you want to grab these at a cheap price, you may want to see if you can shop around, or perhaps just pick them up around 12. I do think there is a possibility it could fall back out, but there's also a very real possibility, given the type of card it is, that it goes in the opposite direction. And speaking of Blue Eyes, Chaos Dragon is up to $10. Another really solid card with beautiful artwork as a secret rare. Cheapest is 10, and then they go up to 11 from there, you know, towards the page, but there's a decent amount of copies listed for 10. Another card I've talked about for a while is just being solid to have. It's neat. I don't know how, like, viable it is per se, but it is untargetable and can't be destroyed by card effects, so it does have that going for it, plus other effects that can do quite a bit of damage. Just, again, it's a Blue Eyes card. It's going to have collector's value for sure, so something to keep an eye on. And the quantities of this, again, dwindling faster than a lot of the other secret rares from Legendary Duelist Season 2. Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, I picked the purple one, but they're all pretty much high up there. This is $8 to $9. This card seems to be impervious from, like, value drop, despite being reprinted consistently, and I understand that the movie packs are relatively hard to find, kind of for a niche audience, so there's never been, like, a widely accessible version of this card, but I would think Legendary Duelist Season 2 would be a substantial way to get it out. It doesn't seem as though that's been the case, so if you don't have them and you anticipate wanting them at some point, I would personally recommend either grabbing the movie pack secret if you want to spend the extra few bucks. I think that's the nicest one. If not, I mean, obviously there's the Ghost Rare, but we're sort of looking at a more realistic market investment, short-term perspective. The regular non-colored Ultra Rare, I think, would be the best bet to go with if you're getting it out of this. But obviously make your own decisions, find out what works best for you. One revisit to the Battle City box, which doesn't seem to be shocking. It pops up on Market Watch quite a bit nowadays. Secret Rare RedEyes Black Dragon has been bought out. It is up to about $15. I did talk about this one for a while as being something to keep an eye on. It was $5 to $6. It has almost tripled in price since then, if not actually tripled. I don't know if this will stay, but it's a RedEyes card. It's from that box, and there are very few copies of it available, so you may want to try and make a sale if you have one, but again, I think this card's ceiling is pretty high. I'm going to hold on to mine for a bit personally and see where we go with it. Genesis Impact's got one today. Artemis is not bought out, but it is slowly creeping up to $16. It will hit $20 eventually, in my opinion, unless it gets reprinted. This is really solid in Invoke, because you basically don't have to play Secure Garden and Almirage. You can just play one card, and that extra deck space is super valuable. Neat enough in its own deck, too, which I'm actually working on the very basic stages of a deck profile for, but it's going to be a bit down the road before that gets anywhere. So, another card I bought at 11. It's showing decent return, but I wouldn't buy this for profit, necessarily. I'd buy it just to make sure you have a copy at a cheap price before it, you know, eventually ends up going to the moon. No pun intended. Drollin Lockbird Gold Rare is up a lot, $8.20. It was about $6 before, so I understand it's not massive, but it's a decent jump. And this card just is going to be really solid in certain formats. Every printing of it, including the common, has just started to creep up. This is the only version of the alternate art, so if you like it, it might be worth grabbing. There are a decent amount of them, around 8, and then they go to 9 to 10 pretty quickly, so Just wanted to make you aware of that one. Same with Appaloosa's alternate art, up a little. I bought mine for 5 and change. They're up to about $7.50 now, so not a huge jump, and there is a decent quantity available, but I think over time, this will probably settle around $10, just being that it's a distinct alternate art, and it looks really good, so hopefully they do give us another printing of it, maybe as a secret at some point, because that would be really cool. And Speedroid Card Turbo, I have talked about this before as a card that I think is actually decent in Speedroids, but not worth spending a ton of money on. At $2, I'm a little bit more comfortable recommending it. I actually have my set now. I do think it's going to get reprinted in the Megatins, so be aware of that. It'll most likely be a common if it does. But if you want an Ultra and you plan on playing it, I mean, $2 is fine. It's Rise of the Duelist, so $2 is okay. But this card was going for like $6 to $7 at one point. I couldn't, in good conscience, recommend that to anyone. Obviously, I am not a financial advisor. I just put out my opinions on there and what I would do, and what you choose to do with that is up to you. Phantom Knight's rank up Magic Force from Phantom Rage is up to $6. A little bit of steady climbing for this. Solid card. Very well could be in the Megatins, but it's definitely really good in Phantom Knights to cheat out the Arc Rebellion, as well as, you know, some of the Raid Raptor stuff you can bring out with it too. I just think it's neat. I think rank up Magic stuff is more searchable with some of the Lightning Overdrive stuff, so you may see weird hybrid builds going on. It's climbing. If you're interested in grabbing it, I would say maybe just wait for the Megatins, but if you want a foil version and you want to take the gamble that it maybe isn't in the tins, then you know where to find it. Next up, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, Fist of the Gadgets, about 2 and change. It's been disappearing in quantities pretty quickly. This does have a couple of other foil prints. I believe it's Secret Rare, well, it's obviously in the Mega Packs, and then Ultra with the alternate art, but this is the only quote-unquote, you know, easy rarity of the Super Rare, which is the Fist of the Gadgets. So just food for thought on that. It's solid. I like the Secret a lot too, but the Secrets are pretty high up there, as you can see, for both the Mega Pack and Invasion of Vengeance. That being said, if you do chase down a Secret Rare for your own personal collection or whatever, I would recommend the original. It's a few bucks more, but it will definitely preserve better in the long term. And lastly, today, Code Talker Fist of the Gadgets is slowly disappearing. Nothing crazy, but about $2 a piece or less if you combine shipping on other items. We will definitely see this card see play at some point as more of the Code Talker stuff comes to us. We're still waiting on Heat Soul, but I think that deck as a whole will be functional. And Fist of the Gadgets is one of those weird TCG exclusive sets. I don't know anytime we'll be getting reprints for this stuff. If you don't have a Code Talker or you plan on playing that deck at some point, I definitely think this is a solid card to look at and just keep in mind. Same with Shooting Code Talker, but that one's not even $1 yet. Again, as a penny stock, though, it's not too bad. And the actual, lastly, with the new Utopia Dragner and Lightning Overdrive stuff, Utopia Array Ultimate Rare is pretty affordable, but very limited in quantities. I bought an Ultimate Rare first ed. I wanted a Ghost, but they're so high, and there's just a limited quantity, so there's not much competition with them. This one, though, you can get a Near Mint first ed for about $20. Not a bad deal. It's an older card. It will hold value because it's a number. It's Utopia Array. And I do think that you'll play this in Utopia build simply to get the extra draws off change tactics and the extra benefits that come along with it. So there's a few printings of Utopia Array in general, but all of them are at least a little pricey. I believe even the Star Pack Commons are, you know, pretty significant in terms of that. So that's going to do it for today's Ion Market. Thank you guys for watching. If there's anything I missed or anything else you think, you know, maybe I should cover in a future video, drop it down below. In the meantime, though, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe. We try to post Market Watch videos at least 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more, so you're up to the date, up to the minute Market Watch knowledge will be right here for you at Loveshack, and I'll see you in the next video.